natural weapons come in various forms, functions, and styles, and today I'm gonna explain them all to you. Let's start with a smile and talk teeth. You may not think it, but this crocodile has bitten off more than it can chew. But that's only because crocodiles don't chew. Instead, they violently twist and spin their body, dismembering their prey into easily swallowed chunks of flesh and bone. Aptly named the death roll, allows crocodiles and alligators to disorient, kill, and consume large prey animals, including, at times, humans. Carnivorous mammals, on the other hand, chew and grind the meat that they tear off their prey. To make this more efficient, they have multiple kinds of teeth, like shearing incisors or flattening molars. But canines, the sharp, exaggerated fangs found on predators, are specifically evolved as weapons, used to clamp down on prey animals and pierce through bone and hide. Wolves and lions both use complicated pack tactics in order to isolate or ambush a member of a herd. Wolves will play the long game, getting in bites whenever they can, and often waiting for the prey to bleed out, while lions prefer a more immediate approach. One will grab the prey from behind while another swings around, chomping down on the neck, crushing the windpipe, and killing them instantly. Vampire bats use their canines as more of a scalpel than a stabbing tool. They smell where the largest veins of their host are, then cut small incisions there. They drool over their food, letting the anticoagulants in their saliva prevent the blood from clotting so that they can lap up that freshly flowing blood. In the past, there were several saber-toothed predators, like the Smilodon, a now extinct big cat that we think used its massive sabers to slay the megafauna in the Ice Age. But when it comes to teeth specialized for killing, none have stood the test of time better than sharks. Great white sharks have an upper jaw filled with broad triangular teeth. These are serrated like saws, allowing them to shear off pieces of flesh from anything unfortunate enough to end up in their mouths. The teeth on the lower jaw are more sharp and pointed, which they use to make contact first, holding the prey in place before the upper jaw saw comes down and completely shreds them apart. Because of how aggressive sharks are as predators, their teeth often fall out of their gums. But this is accounted for, because behind their front row of teeth is a conveyor belt of layers upon layers of replacements, ready to be put to use. Like snacks in a vending machine. When one falls out, another is pushed forward to take its place. Basking sharks can have up to 200 teeth in their jaw at one time, and it's estimated that some species go through 30,000 teeth in their lifetime. Even animals that are further removed from us, like lampreys, lobsters, and leeches, have developed their own versions of teeth, completely independent from us. This is convergent evolution, where basically the same thing evolves twice. And this is going to be a common theme in this video, because animals that face similar pressures often develop similar solutions. Both antlers and horns are hard protrusions from the skull, which can be used as dangerous tools to swipe or slam into adversaries. Horns are found on bovids, like bulls, bighorn sheep, bison, and impala. They're bony cores sheathed in keratin, the same thing that makes up our fingernails. Rams use their horns to, well, ram, smashing into opponents and easily shattering bone. Battering rams are siege weapons that we created and named after the animal, often featuring their heads carved in the front. So clearly, ancient humans were traumatized enough by rams to turn their strategy into a weapon of their own. Texas longhorns have, well, long horns, which they sweep from side to side in an area of effect attack, making it difficult for predators to approach their calves, even from the sides. Today, due to selective breeding, these horns regularly grow more than 8 feet long. That's more than a Victor Wembanyama on each side of the skull. Antlers, on the other hand, are found in cervids like deers, moose, and elk, and are mainly used as a mating device. The large display shows off how impressive you are as a male, and helps to establish social dominance in a herd. Watch these deer lock branches, twisting and throwing each other in a gritty wrestling match. Stags and moose fighting like this can often be heard echoing throughout the forest, as big antlers crash into each other and bigger bodies crash into the ground. In some species, like elk and caribou, antlers are sharp enough that fights commonly end with puncturing the rival male in the neck. While horns begin growing shortly after birth and stay permanently on the head, antlers are grown and shed every mating season. They do share an evolutionary origin, but it's clear they took on different paths, yet they still remain used for similar scenarios. And the same can be said for other head weapons we find in nature. Giraffes have bony protrusions called ossicones, which they club into each other during necking contests, where the males fight for mating rights and social dominance by whipping their faces into each other. Rhino horns are a bit different. They have a unihorn, comprised entirely of keratin with no bony core. Rhinos may jab, charge, or thrust with these horns, defeating rivals or scaring away predators that go after their calves. But they also use them as a multi-purpose tool for digging, clearing paths, and as a pointer stick for communication. Rhino beetles also have a single horn on their head, which comes in a variety of shapes such as upwards and downwards curves or pitchforks, and they mainly use these to fight off other males. Pound for pound, rhino beetles are one of the strongest animals in nature, able to lift 850 times their own body weight with the flick of the horn. And the last unicorn I'll mention is the narwhal, which sprouts a huge spiral horn from their face, though this is actually a specialized tooth, specifically the upper left canine, which has evolved to be extremely long, making it a tusk, not a horn. Tusks are kind of like teeth for horn-like purposes. They tend to be found on large herbivores who don't have sharp teeth otherwise, and they're used for mating competitions, dominance displays, and fending off predators, rarely for eating. Musk deer don't grow antlers, and instead grow sharp tusks that are used for male-male combat. And it's funny because they look like little vampire deers. But yeah, lots of animals like elephants, walruses, and hippos, they all use their tusks for essentially the same stuff. So despite being literal teeth, tusks are more similar to head weapons like horns and antlers in their use. But heads, sorry, I meant to say head butts, are also a viable method of attack. The ultimate butt head being the Pachycephalosaurus. These guys' skulls were incredibly thick and exposed from any ornamentation, and about 20% of them we've found show previous damage on their domes, implying that they did use them non-randomly to smash into things. It's typically thought that they smashed heads in a first to get concussed doesn't get the girl competition, but this is actually unclear. It might actually make more sense if they rammed into each other's sides, but I think that's less fun. Humans are also pretty capable of using our skulls offensively. Headbutts are actually one of our most devastating moves, building up tons of force in short distances. They're completely banned in almost all combat sports because of how fatal they can be. But okay, let's flip this coin over and go from heads to tails. Thresher sharks have an extremely long scythe-shaped caudal fin, which can sometimes be as long as the body of the shark itself. When hunting, they whip this tail, swatting smaller fish and stunning them, then easily gobbling them up. Monitor lizards like Komodo dragons and Nile monitors have muscular tails that they swing side to side. These are strong enough to knock adult humans off their feet, cause internal injuries, or leave you with a painful sting. But this is obviously a secondary weapon to their powerful bites. Similarly, orcas use their tails primarily to swim, but they are known to send things flying with an upward smack of their tail, sometimes for the sake of a coordinated team hunt, but other times just to be an asshole. Where we do see tails specifically as a primary weapon is in animals of the past. Ankylosaurus was covered in spiky armor and had a large bony mass at the end of their tail, which they swung around as a powerful club-like weapon. Stegosaurs had something similar in their thagomizers, an arrangement of spike-shaped plates on their tails, which was most likely swung for defensive purposes as well. Extinct relatives of armadillos called glyptodonts were the size of cars, and they also had tail clubs, but nowadays they aren't found on any living animals. Does this mean that tail clubs weren't that good of a weapon? No, not necessarily. There are many things to consider. The fact that animals often have other options for natural weapons, the other uses of a tail that you lose if you attach a big ball of mass to the end of it, and also dumb luck. Natural selection works based on traits that already exist that are just good enough to lead to more reproduction. The fact that there are no tail clubs anymore isn't a dig at tail clubs, rather a compliment to the other strategies that exist and are working perfectly fine. Also, Ankylosaurus was wiped out for meteoric reasons. If that hadn't happened, who's to say they wouldn't be around still swinging that tail? But regardless, there is a structure that we find at the ends of tails today that may be far more deadly than a simple club. Stingers are sharp organs found at the end of scorpion tails, as well as at the bottoms of several insects. But we can't really talk about them without first discussing the real weapon here, which is what stingers deliver. What do golden dart frogs, Indian red scorpions, and blue-ringed octopus all have in common? They all have colors in their name. Oh, and they can each easily kill dozens of humans despite being able to fit in the palm of your hand. Toxicity is nature's great equalizer. It allows what would otherwise be a completely unthreatening, helpless animal to be regarded as one of the most dangerous in the world. Animals like dart frogs are extremely poisonous when ingested, so predators recognize to avoid their bright colorations and don't try to eat them. Others inject toxins into their prey as an active weapon, which we call venom instead of poison. And I'm gonna tell you about the most venomous animals in the world. But first, there's something of greater harm to you that you should be aware of. If you've been on the internet at all lately, you've probably typed your sensitive data into several websites. And unfortunately, it's openly being sold by data brokers and weaponized against you through exploitative targeted ads, increased scam messages, and identity theft. It's unreal how much information you can get just from searching someone up. Phone numbers, addresses, salaries, even the names of family members. It seems impossible to scrub your personal data from the internet these days, which is why Incogni is here to help. Incogni will automatically handle the removal process of your info from hundreds of known data brokers. Even when your data inevitably reappears on these sites, Incogni constantly checks to remove it again for you. On top of this, with their custom removal feature, you can send them any link and a dedicated privacy expert will get your info removed from that website. As a creator and researcher, there's a lot that I need to keep private, both for personal and professional reasons. And using Incogni, I'm able to feel at ease. They're the only data removal service that's been officially verified to actually remove your information from these data broker sites. So I know that it actively reduces how vulnerable I am to scams, people trying to hack my accounts, and even from stalkers. Disappear from the internet and take control of your privacy with Incogni. Get 60% off any annual plan using code DANINBLUE or by clicking the link in the description. Back to the video. Box jellyfish are one of the most venomous creatures in the world. Their tentacles have specialized cells called nematocysts, which trigger when something brushes against them, launching microscopic harpoons at speeds faster than a bullet, injecting a cocktail of toxic proteins that'll kill a human in only 5 minutes, the amount of time it takes to die without a working heart. The inland taipan is the only other animal that can compare, commonly cited to have the most potent venom of any organism on the planet. If one bit you, you actually wouldn't be in much pain. First, you'd start to sweat, then get dizzy, and feel nauseous as the venom silently seeps into your bloodstream. Your eyelids begin to droop, you have trouble speaking as your facial muscles begin to fail you. Eventually, the muscles you use to move fail you, then the ones you use to breathe. Additionally, your blood starts clotting in random places, followed by unstoppable bleeding when your body inevitably runs out of blood clotting factors. All in all, it'll take about 30 minutes for you to perish. Toxins are distinct from each other in the different ways they mess with your natural systems. From Komodo dragons that cause your blood not to clot and keep bleeding out from where they bite you, to the digestive enzymes that melt your insides as you get drunk by an assassin bug. Some toxins make you feel a pain that never goes away, and some make you so numb that you never feel anything again. There are many delivery methods of toxins as well. Snakes inject venom through their fangs, specialized teeth connected to venom glands behind their eyes. Arthropods like scorpions, wasps, and bullet ants have stingers, as I mentioned before, and cone snails have a long tooth-like structure called a radula, which comes from their mouth to inject venom and paralyze prey, another of the deadliest venoms in the world. Toxicity is the most powerful weapon in nature, and it isn't even close. It allows the tiniest of animals, and even unmoving plants, to take down some of the largest, most resilient fauna in nature. And what's worse is that you don't always know it's coming. While some animals honestly display their toxicity with colors and flashy structures, other extremely venomous creatures can look quite unassuming. Also, imagine the times before information was so accessible. You would never know if an animal was safe to handle or if it could kill you instantly until someone tried it. There's this video of tourists happily holding a blue-ringed octopus, which is genuinely one of the dumbest things you could do, ever. If it decided to bite down at any time, the holder would have fallen severely paralyzed and perished in a few hours. So, toxins can be injected in many ways, but they can also be ejected as well. Spitting cobras spray toxic fluid from their fangs, mainly as a form of intimidation, as their main weapon is still a venomous bite, but this spray can still prove fatal by seeping into eyes, mouths, or open wounds. Bombardier beetles eject a noxious spray from their rear end, filled with irritating chemicals at nearly boiling temperatures. This is launched through a buildup of gas, like a natural acid gun, and will completely kill small attacking insects as well as fend off larger predators. Imagine trying to spray a bug with Raid, only for it to spray you first. Vinegaroons are arachnids that can also do this, except they spray from their tail the substance they're named after, vinegar. That's almost 10 times as strong as the vinegar used in balsamic salad, making it an irritating and smelly spray to ward off predators. Because sprayed toxins aren't transferred through digestion or contact, it's not called poison. But because it isn't directly injected, it isn't called venom either. So here's your fun fact of the video. When toxic substances are projected from a distance, they're called toxungens. Blue Dragon is a show I watched as a kid that I feel like no one else remembers but me. But it's also the name of these majestic sea slugs. Fitting that their name matches an anime's, seeing as how they look like Pokemon, I mean wow. But don't let these cute looks deceive you. These guys are very toxungenous, though they actually don't produce any toxins themselves. Blue dragons feed on venomous man-o'-war jellyfish, and are immune to the stings of their nematocysts, instead processing them to store in their finger-like organelles. Now they've become able to sting themselves by releasing these harpoon-filled cells from their skin. Horned lizards shoot toxungenous blood from their eyes, and I don't really have much to say about it, I just had to show you that exists. But there are many other ways to make a spray or slime dangerous without it being a toxungen. The most famous example raided my garbage can last week. Skunks have a hole right above their rectum that produces something stinkier than any rectum could be. Their spray has an incredibly unpleasant odor that's nearly impossible to get off for days, even with deep showering, making the investment in trying to bother them extremely high. This ability turns them from one of the cutest animals into an infamous pest, thought of with disgust from humans and predators alike. Besides spraying, you often see more viscous substances secreted as well, like the ink released by cephalopods to escape predators or inconvenience humans. Velvet worms come equipped with slime cannons that shoot out lines of quickly drying adhesives. This stops their prey from moving so the worm can approach and consume them systematically. Similarly, many spiders use their webs not as passive traps, but as active tools to ensnare their prey. Spitting spiders combine venom with their silk, which they shoot out to snare and kill their prey from afar. Bola spiders whip their webs around and lasso moths from a distance. Ogre-faced spiders create a rectangular net which they slam down on their prey. And triangle weaver spiders wind up their webs, storing elastic energy, then releasing to catapult it forward and snap into prey. Secretions are a rare yet useful trait to weaponize, and we see them in a lot of uniquely unpleasant ways, whether that be toxicity, acidity, stinkiness, or stickiness. Okay, so these chemical processes are cool and all, but sometimes the only weapon you need is pure, blunt force. Whether it be gorillas slamming their forearms down on each other, or kangaroos throwing drop kicks with elevated leverage from their tail, or that guy that punched that kangaroo that time. Sometimes, using whatever limbs we have for movement to just smash into another animal is a pretty good way to attack. Flightless birds like ostriches, cassowaries, and kiwis can dish out some very devastating kicks. Secretary birds curb stomp cobras into the ground, grasping their heads and crushing them to death. Ungulates like horses, giraffes, and deer are also known to throw up some sweet chin music through their rear kicks as well. Heavier animals like hippos, elephant seals, and large catfish straight up use their body mass to slam and run over each other. And birds can use their wings to smack each other for pretty minimal damage usually, but it still works. However, the undisputed king of striking can again fit in the palm of your hand. Mantis shrimp have club-like appendages called smashers, which they throw forward with the speed of a .22 caliber bullet. These punches can break apart crab shells, and their fists move so quickly that water around the punch starts to boil. I made a couple wrestling move references earlier, but obviously in real practice, mixed martial artists are experts at weaponizing their bodies. History has led to so many techniques or styles to strike, as well as grappling techniques to snap bones, break joints, and put people to sleep. Anacondas constrict their prey like a rear naked choke, though their thick bodies are obviously way more optimized at doing this. They wrap around their prey, squeezing until there's no blood flow and they expire helplessly. Then they go on to swallow them whole. But if the goal is to be visceral, limbs can be improved. For no matter how much martial arts training you have, a person with a knife will always be more dangerous. Claws are the natural knives of the animal kingdom, attached to the ends of digits, which are used to grasp, slash, or crush. Cat claws are retractable, coming out at will like hidden blades from Assassin's Creed. They pounce on their prey, digging their claws in to hold them down, then finish them off with powerful bites to the neck. Some claws are used less for capture and more for general tasks, like digging holes, grooming, or climbing. Bears use their massive claws to strip bark from trees and reveal tasty insects, as well as manipulate small berries, so they don't have the sharpest claws in the shed. Still, a swipe from them can easily dismember the largest of animals because bears are bears. Bird claws are called talons, and on birds of prey, they're highly specialized for killing. Harpy eagles swoop down to crush sloths and monkeys between their talons, destroying their bones and killing them instantly. Harpy eagle claws are as long as bear claws, despite them being so much smaller, though as far as birds go, they're pretty darn huge. But an even bigger bird is the cassowary, which combines their strong kick with their sharp talons. They are fast and dangerous, and many people have been disemboweled by them without even realizing it. I think this is a good section to mention spurs as well, which aren't claws, but instead sharp protrusions of bone. Remember how I said that wing attacks aren't usually very damaging? Well, screamers fix that by having spurs at the tips of their wings, upgrading them into deadly swinging hooks. Male platypuses have spurs by their rear claws, which are also the source of their potent venom. This seems to be mainly for male-male competition, as their venom glands enlarge during the mating season only, while they otherwise produce little to no venom at all. Pincers are different from claws. Though they often get called as such, the more accurate term for a snipping claw like that of a crab is a chela. Coconut crab chelae can crush at up to 3,000 newtons of force. That's like a grand piano resting on your hand. These are used to break open coconuts, but also on occasion turtle shells as well as bones. Everything loves breaking bones. Male fiddler crabs have one comically large chela and one regular-sized one. And no, it's not because they're spending too much time on OnlyFans, actually the opposite. Their major claws are used to attract real females by beckoning them over in a wave. But when another male approaches the burrow instead, a territorial dispute goes down, where they have an arm wrestling match and grapple each other with their major chelae until one of them is flipped over or runs away. Interestingly, fiddler crabs can be either left-handed or right-handed. In most populations, this is split 50-50, but in some, about 90% of them are right-chela'd, exactly the same as the rate of right-handedness in humans. The craziest use of pincers, though, belongs to the pistol shrimp, which also has one chela bigger than the other, except this one should be spelled K-I-double-L-A, because it is a literal firearm. They fire with their arms by snapping their pincers shut so quickly it creates a cavitation bubble, which bullets forward and collapses, releasing a shockwave that stuns or kills their prey. This happens in a fraction of a second, and the force behind the attack creates a sound louder than a gunshot, and reaches temperatures temperatures close to the surface of the sun, if only for a brief moment. It should also be mentioned that the aforementioned mantis shrimp also strikes so powerfully that it can create a cavitation bubble and shockwave, but this isn't the main point of their attack. Mantis shrimp also use their raptorial forearms to grasp and pin down prey. This is another weapon seen in arthropods, like praying mantids and water bugs. Okay, so normally this would be the part where I beg you to subscribe, but today it's actually going to be the opposite. I have to thank you for having subscribed. I grew up watching YouTube. I remember when they first introduced the 100,000 subscriber play button and thinking what a dream it would be to get one myself. 5 attempts at a YouTube channel, and over 15 years later, I can finally get one, all because of you guys. So sincerely, thank you. Your support means everything. Now, pincers don't only have to be at the ends of limbs. They're also commonly found around the mouth in the form of mandibles. While rhino beetles have horns, stag beetles have antlers, which are enlarged mandibles they use to grapple with each other. They fight to establish dominance over land with running sap or rotten fruit, because that's where all the babes are gonna gather, obviously. And then it's king of the hill. The males grab and try to throw each other off, aiming to be the last one standing so that he can guard the females and the resources. Many arthropods use mandibles or mandible equivalents to grasp, crush, or inject venom. Giant centipedes have modified 2 of their front legs into what are essentially venomous mandibles, but because they're actually legs, they're called forcipules. Spider mouthpieces are called chelicerae, which can come in a variety of forms and often pack some venom as well. Alternatively, true bugs like bedbugs and ambush bugs have sucking mouthpieces, which they use to pierce and feed on prey or hosts, similar to a mosquito. Assassin bugs sneak up on their prey and quickly inject their sucker, letting toxic saliva seep into them and digest their insides. Some have been observed carefully tapping spider webs, mimicking the movement of captured prey, enticing the spider to come over, only to surprise them by draining their insides. Another weaponized mouthpiece are beaks and bills, which come in many shapes as well. Predatory birds use their razor-sharp beaks along with their talons in tearing apart flesh, while the needle-like bills of herons work for spearfishing by stabbing through their prey. Here's a great blue heron I saw the other day. Some are made for stabbing, some for scooping, and all sorts of general tasks, but pretty much every beak can be dangerous when used in the right way. Alligator snapping turtles wait in the water, jaws open, wriggling a fake worm around in its mouth. When an unsuspecting fish approaches, they snap their powerful jaws around them. Their sharp beaks let them tear through anything and lets them dig in and hold on, so that there is zero chance of escape. Cephalopods also have beaks lining their mouths, which they use to break apart prey already caught in their tentacles. These can break through crab shells or inject deadly neurotoxins, depending on the species. And lastly, swordfish have sharp bills that they swing around like a blade, hence the name. This can be used to slice through multiple prey at once, as well as seriously injure larger animals. They've even caused the death of a few humans and punctured boats in some cases. Swordfish are one of the fastest animals in the world, with a burst speed of 97 kilometers an hour, or 60 miles per hour, just below the top speed of a cheetah. It's possible that their bills help them reduce drag to reach these speeds, meaning they aren't only swords to slash through schools of fish, but to slash through the water itself. Sometimes, instead of weaponizing your mouth or limbs, it's easier to just cover your entire body. Porcupines are covered in spiky quills, modified hairs that are thicker and more rigid, complete with a needle-like tip. These tips have tiny backwards-facing barbs, making it extremely painful to try and pull out, so predators that have dealt with them quickly learn that they aren't worth hunting. A common misconception is that these quills are shot out, but in reality, porcupines just back up into you and leave them in there. Hedgehogs and echidnas also have spiky quills, which don't detach as easily and so are kind of just used as a full body armor by wrapping themselves up into a ball. Unfortunately, they don't actually drop rings when you hit them though. This isn't dissimilar to pufferfish, inflating themselves to maximize spikiness, or turtles holing up in their shells, even plants with thorns and bristles. It's pretty simple. Cover yourself in something spiky and you'll be a lot safer from attacks. Tarantulas aren't just covered in urticating hairs, but also actively launch them at their adversaries. They use their hind legs to flick these bristle missiles, inflicting pain, rashes, and allergic reactions. This attack can even kill small mammals, and they shoot so much hair it leaves their abdomen with a bald spot after the barrage is done. Other animals surround themselves with spines, like venomous sea urchins. Lionfish swim around with their flashy spines flared around them. This is one of the ocean's most threatening displays, as these spines are incredibly toxic, causing most predators, including sharks, to leave them alone. Stonefish spines, while less flashy, are actually much more dangerous. These are the most venomous fish in the world, which is odd considering they don't rely on these spines too often. They're experts at camouflage, blending in with the stone around them to ambush their prey. But when they get hunted, they're not quick enough to easily escape, so their venomous dorsal spines serve as an important line of defense. Recently, some stonefish were found with a switchblade on their head, called a lacrimal saber, which pops out from under their eyes and locks into place. It also glows in the dark for some reason. We don't know why they have this. Stonefish are already an amalgamation of several traits, so having a sword on their head feels a little redundant, though the current thought is that it's used in tandem with the spines to maximize defense. This is an example of a natural weapon that we don't understand the function of, because we've never observed it being used in the wild. So just how many secret weapons do animals have that we've yet to discover? Oh, by the way, the stinger or barb of a stingray is also a spine. Okay, let's move on to something a little more shocking. Electric eels are a species of knife fish, not eels, that can generate a 500-volt shock, enough to stun an adult human and more than enough to stun a fish for dinner. They produce these shocks using cells called electrocytes, which comprise into 3 organs that make up 80% of the fish's total body mass. All cells, including our own, send electrical signals to very small degrees, and electrocytes do this quite a bit more. Still, it requires stacking thousands of these cells to get the shock to be so effective. Some other fish use electricity as well. There are the relatives of the electric eel, including other species of knife fish, and the electric catfish, which can produce shocks at up to 350 volts. Torpedo rays have their electric organs in their pectoral fins, and can produce a shock up to 220 volts. In ancient Greece, they were administered as a form of pain relief, using the shock to numb the pain of headaches, gout, and pregnancies, making the electric ray one of the first narcotics treatments. In rare cases, light can be used aggressively as well, not directly as a weapon, but as a lure in anglerfish and predatory fireflies. Additionally, cuttlefish have been documented to change their skin patterns in a rhythmic way to hypnotize crabs, causing them to lose all defensive behavior before crunching down on them with their beaks. Okay, we've covered some crazy natural weapons, but what about when animals expand beyond their own physiology and use natural tools or the environment itself as a method of attack? Boxer crabs carry a venomous sea anemone in each hand, which they square up and use as living boxing gloves, complete with a stinging punch. They're also called pom-pom crabs because they look like cheerleaders. This is a unique situation where an animal picks up another animal to use as a weapon. They even use the anemone to pick up small food particles, so they're kind of like symbiotic hands as well. If a boxer crab only has one anemone, it will split it in 2, causing both halves to grow into clones of each other, ensuring the boxer crab has a renewable supply of deadly pom-poms. Orcas use the water itself, speeding themselves through with the understanding of displacement and momentum to create a wave above them, which they slam into unsuspecting prey above the water. This wave disorients them and knocks them into the water for the pod to easily rip apart. Archerfish can also waterbend by pumping water through their gills to shoot out of their mouth, sniping prey outside the water and knocking them in. Antlions dig burrows in the sand, using them as funnels to trap ants. They show a masterclass in geometric construction, sloping the walls at the exact angle that sand is just barely holding on enough not to slip. Then it buries itself at the bottom, jaws exposed. And if they manage to avoid this, the antlion will flick sand to avalanche them down, where they are met with a loving set of mandibles. As we discussed before, before, many animals have lures that they use to entice prey before pouncing on them. My favorite, of course, is the spider-tailed horned viper, which has a fake spider tail that birds try to eat, only to quickly be eaten themselves. But green herons do this without a natural lure. Instead, they drop insects, feathers, even bits of bread stolen from humans, to bait fish to the surface, then spear them for food. There's also that video of an orca in captivity using one of its fish to successfully catch a bird. But of course, when it comes to manipulating your environment or producing your own weapons, humans are the greatest by far. We started off with simple spears, clubs, and hand axes. Then we threw things like javelins and slings. Eventually, we melted metal and made swords and armor and trebuchets and firearms and fighter jets, all the way to the atomic bomb and more. We have made weapons of mass destruction and mass extinction, a power leagues above anything an organism has ever held access to. But it took us a long time to get there. Homo erectus existed for 2 million years before Homo sapiens ever entered onto the scene, and they seem to have invented the original stone tool industry. Many animals are seen using stones for basic tasks, like smashing open nuts and eggs, and some occasionally use sticks and rocks to fight. But none of these very intelligent animals have ever done something as sophisticated as even the earliest humans did. Homo erectus took the time to sharpen their rocks and make spears, which they combined with advanced strategies and persistence to safely take down larger animals. This is the result of evolution as well. Tool making was so useful for us that we evolved to have dexterous hands for precise manipulation, larger brains to create new designs, and large social groups to pass down knowledge. These traits, developed in our ancestral environment, are the same ones we've used to make it to the point we're at today. Our claws are not sharp, our jaws are pretty weak, and our strength is often outclassed. We don't seem to have the natural weapons that would allow us to face many of the deadly animals we discussed today. But that's because our natural weapons are the ones we made. Another way to look at it is that we abandoned our natural weapons because our artificial ones kept things more flexible. One of the reasons we think Homo sapiens outcompeted Neanderthals, despite them being bigger and possibly smarter than us, is paradoxically because we were weaker than them. They used brute force and simple tools to take down megafauna on the regular, while we were cowards who couldn't pull that off as frequently, and instead had to think of new ways to hunt. This led to us throwing spears and laying traps, while the Neanderthals continued their high-risk methods of hunting. Maybe our lack of natural weapons is the reason we created the deadliest ones, and whether or not that's a good thing is yet to be determined. Okay, thanks for watching.